Welcome to the meeting of the Committee on Economic and Community Development. We are here this afternoon for two bills. The 2 p.m. bill, number 21-0040, Floodplain Management Code Revision, and 210 starts bill number 2, which is bill 21-0023, the Urban Renewal Middle East Amendment. We have in attendance today members of the committee, Chairwoman Sharon Green Middleton, also serve as Vice President of the Council and represent the 6th District. We also have Councilman John Bullock, member of the committee and representative of the 9th District.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We also have Councilman Mark Conway, member of the committee and representative of the 4th District.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We also have Councilmember Ryan Dorsey, member of the committee and representative of the 3rd District. Councilman Dorsey, are you there?
Yes, hi, thank you.
And we also have Councilman Robert Stokes, member of the committee and representative of the 12th District.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I'm sure Councilmember Ramos will be joining us shortly, so we'll get back to her. And checking to see if we have any other members of the council. At this time, I see none.
Councilman Glover.
I am so sorry. We also have, look, I checked you off, Councilman Glover, but forgot to mention your name. Councilman Glover, member of the committee and representative of the 13th District.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I know you're still in recovery mode, so thank you for joining us so you can talk about your bill. Members of the Office of the President, I see Matt Stegman.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have, is Nikki Thompson on? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Aaron DeGraffenraid? Not on. Lucy Font, is she on?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Representing the mayor's office, Nina Thimulus.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. And do we have Natasha here today? We don't. Okay. Before we begin, if you are not speaking, please keep yourself on mute. Please do not take yourself off of mute unless you are recognized by the chair. When you are recognized, please identify yourself and the organization or agency that you are representing. Once you are finished speaking, please put yourself back on mute. And so let's begin. Public notices have been posted for both of these bills, and we'll start with bill number 21-0040, the Floodplain Management Code Revision for the purpose of modifying the city laws governing floodplain management to meet or exceed requirements for eligibility in the National Flood Insurance Program and other requirements of federal and state law, etc. This bill was introduced on February 22nd, 2021. The bill was sponsored by the administration and particularly through the planning department. We'll have comments from the administration, starting with the Office of Sustainability, and representing the Office of Sustainability, we have Bruna Artilla. Yes,
Hello.
Bruna. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So I have a presentation to share, so if I could share the slides.
Okay.
I'm having some technical difficulties. Just give me 1 second. I will
Sure.
work on it to share the slides.
Happy to advance the slides, Bruna, if you email them to me. If you continue to have problems.
If just yeah, let me try one more time because I think I may be able to do it this time.
There's something. There we go.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we,
All right.
council, committee, can you hear, Bruna? Fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. So good afternoon, Madam Chair and honorable members of the committee. My name is Bruna Tilla. Again, I'm the coastal planner and acting floodplain manager with the Department of Planning and Office of Sustainability. And I'm here today to provide an overview of City Council Bill 21-040. And I'm speaking for the Office of Sustainability and the Baltimore City Planning Commission. So as you may know, the Planning Commission voted to approve the bill back on February 25th. And I believe you have in your possession the written reports from the Planning Commission and the Office of Sustainability, and both reports are favorable to the passage of this bill.
Okay. Next,
Okay. Yeah. So I have a little more to share, if I may.
yes, please.
So FEMA notified the city back in December of 2020 that we are required to adopt the new digital flood insurance rate map by June 16th of 2021. And as part of that approval process, we are also proposing to make updates to the floodplain policy that lives mainly within Article 7, Division 1 of the City Code. And those updates were going to be based on FEMA's requirements and achieving some of the following objectives. So we want to ensure that the policy is transparent and clear to the city residents. We want to ensure that the policy includes any relevant sections as recommended by the Department of the Environment in FEMA. We want to make sure that the code is implementable in an older developed city like Baltimore. We want to clarify certain requirements that have been confusing to permit applicants. We want to incorporate flexibility to allow for beneficial environmental projects. And lastly, it's very important that the new digital flood insurance rate maps go into effect by June 16th of 2021 for the city to maintain its participation in good standing in the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP program, which is the FEMA program that makes available federally subsidized flood insurance to Baltimore City residents. So if the city fails to have the new floodplain maps go into effect by June 16th, the city's participation in the NFIP program would be suspended, and that means that all NFIP flood insurance policies in the city would also become suspended. And along with the suspension from the NFIP program, we would also be removed from the Community Rating System Program, or CRS program, which is an NFIP-related program available to jurisdictions like Baltimore that have higher floodplain management standards. So the CRS program makes available discounts on federally subsidized flood insurance policies, or NFIP policies, that range from 10% to 25% discounts. And if the city's participation in the CRS program is interrupted, we would need to reapply for the program after our reinstatement in the NFIP program to regain the flood insurance discounts. And that's a very lengthy and time-consuming process. And I would also like to point out that the bill includes very minor text amendments to the zoning code within Article 32, and the amendments are consistent with the city's comprehensive master plan. They promote the city's public health, safety, and welfare, and the amendments are consistent with the intent and general regulations of the zoning code. So with that said, Madam Chair, I have additional slides to go over the NFIP program and some of the changes that were proposed into the floodplain code. And I would be happy to provide that presentation to you now. That presentation should take around 10 minutes. So please let me know if I should proceed with the presentation or if you and the committee have already enough information.
I think you should proceed with the presentation.
Okay. So as I mentioned before, the NFIP program, or National Flood Insurance Program, is a FEMA voluntary program that makes available federally subsidized flood insurance to participate in jurisdictions like Baltimore City. So in order to participate in the NFIP program, jurisdictions must develop and enforce a floodplain code that is at least as stringent as the NFIP minimum threshold. So FEMA has that minimum requirement for jurisdictions to follow. And in order for jurisdictions to follow the NFIP program, FEMA models the system, so they do a comprehensive study of the NFIP jurisdictions, and they provide floodplain maps to NFIP jurisdictions. Again, those are the regulatory floodplain maps, and that's what we are required to adopt by June 16th. And as I mentioned before, because the city has a more stringent floodplain requirements for floodplain management, the city belongs to the Community Rating System program, which is, again, an additional voluntary program that is made available by FEMA. And the city, Baltimore City, is a Class 5 because we have that much more of a stronger floodplain management program. And a Class 5 allows for a 10 to 25% discount on flood insurance, discounts on flood insurance policies. And Baltimore City is just one of two Class 5 jurisdictions in Maryland, the other being the Prince George's County. And just fun fact, Baltimore has been in the NFIP program without any interruption since 1978, so roughly for 43 years. And here you have on the left the effective or existing floodplain maps. Those were made available to the city back in 2014. And on the right, you can see the preliminary or new maps. Those are the ones that we are required to adopt by June 16th of 2021. And in this large scale, you can see a lot of detail, but the boundaries of the floodplain haven't changed by much at all. Area-wise, it remains pretty much the same. And as you see here, I mentioned, the coastline may look a little wonky, and the reason for that is that the floodplain boundaries, as you see here, they go beyond land and go into water. The reason for that is that the floodplain code, the requirements also apply to projects that take place over water. An example would be a project that takes place over a pier. And now I'm going to give a few examples of the changes they are proposing to the floodplain code. The first one relates to the extent of the regulated floodplain in Baltimore City. So there's no change in the content of this requirement. So we are simply clarifying in the code the extent of the regulatory floodplain in Baltimore City. So as I mentioned before, Baltimore has higher floodplain management standards and go beyond the minimum requirements that are put forward by FEMA. So FEMA requires the regulation of the 1% annual chance of flood area, and that's this darker purple on the image. In Baltimore City, we go beyond that and regulate both the 1% and the 0.2%, which is the lighter purple on the screen. So we have a larger geographic area that we regulate for floodplain requirements in order to make construction and development in Baltimore City safer from flood hazards. The second relates to historic structures. So we are no longer going to be requiring variances for construction and projects that take place in historic structures. So the floodplain manager will work and will continue to work, because this already happens, with CHAP staff to define the possible extent of floodproofing requirements without damaging the historic character of the structure that is being improved. So again, there's no change in the revision of the project. The only change is that we are removing the requirement for a variance because we think that requirement is just cumbersome. The next is a change in the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing projects in less than substantial improvement. Less than substantial improvement means, in floodplain language, means projects that are small. So in the sense of, so if a permit applicant is requesting the repair, maintenance, or in-kind replacement of a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system, that will no longer be required to be elevated above the flood protection elevation, which is the elevation of floodwaters that FEMA gives us along with those maps. So right now in the code, if, for instance, a homeowner is proposing to replace a water heater in the basement, we are no longer going to be requiring the water heater to be placed above the flood protection elevation, which would be in the first or second floor of the structure, because sometimes that's just an unreasonable thing to ask from a homeowner, just replacing a water heater, because it's not just finding the space for the water heater on the first or second floor of a row home. It's also all of the plumbing lines and electric lines that also need to be rearranged in order to comport the system in a different place rather than a basement. We will be, however, requiring that system to be elevated as much as possible. So if that can be elevated by 1 or 2 feet, great, because that 1 or 2 feet will make that system more resilient against any flooding that may happen in a basement. We are proposing to no longer require variances for projects located in water courses. That proposes to improve the drainage, flow capacity, or water quality in our streams. The project must comply with all other code requirements and, of course, obtain all state and federal permits as required. An example of a project that takes place in a water course and that improves water quality would be a DPW restoration project. So again, the requirements are all the same. We're just removing the need for a variance because, again, we believe that a variance in this case would be a cumbersome requirement. And I also would like to go over the public engagement steps that were taken to date. So the floodplain maps were originally provided to the city back in 2018. And between 2018 and 2019, we did outreach related to the floodplain maps. We held 2 on-site public meetings that was pre-pandemic. And we notified all impacted property owners over mail. And they had a chance to ask questions or really just ask questions. Then between 2020 and 2021, we did extensive outreach related to the floodplain code update, and that included 2 virtual public meetings. The draft code was posted for public comment from January 4th through January 31st. We received 22 comments to the code, and we addressed them in the code itself as needed. Then we had the public meetings, and the draft code was advertised through 3 newsletters that are made available by the Office of Sustainability, 2 of the Department of Planning newsletters. We did extensive public outreach through social media to advertise both the meetings and the draft code. And we advertised again this information through 3 email blasts that were done through the Department of Planning that reaches roughly 25,000 people. And lastly, I would like to mention that the floodplain codes, the floodplain maps, both the existing and the preliminary, are available to the public on Code Map, which is a platform made available by DHCD. So if you go on Code Map, and I can put the link to the Code Map to this website on the chat for this meeting. So if you go there, you click on the layer list, which is on the top right of the screen, then you activate boundaries, then activate city program boundaries, then activate by checking the checkbox. Floodplain, if you open that selection, you can see both the effective and the preliminary floodplain maps. And it's not shown here on the screen, but on the top left, there's a search box that you can type any address in the city, and that will give you the flood risk for that specific property. And that's all that I have for you, and I'm ready to take any questions.
Does the committee have any questions at this point for Bruna in her presentation? I guess I have one question. I guess addressing recreation facilities. I noticed that was really not mentioned. Do you have a statement about the recreation facilities? Because I do have a friendly amendment that I want to offer.
So there were no specific changes to anything related to recreational facilities. So if it's a new facility or a facility that will be going under a large project, a substantial improvement project, then you would simply need to follow the floodplain code. We would need to check the elevation that FEMA gives us for that flood elevation for that specific location, and then go from there. But there's no really change unless the facility with the new maps would be mapped in or out of the floodplain. But then again, that's outside of our control because it's mapped by FEMA. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm happy to, if you want to reach out to me, I'll be happy to provide more specific details about any project that you have in mind.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
I have an
sorry.
amendment that I'm going to share with the committee.
Can I have one question, Madam Chair?
One second.
Okay.
Let me finish. So I have a friendly amendment that I'm going to offer when we finish with basically all of the agency reports. I just wanted to share that with the committee. Councilman Stokes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one question. Will this information be provided to communities to understand exactly this whole process? And if it is, I would like to make sure to bring all my community leaders so you can present it to them also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And then I also want to recognize Councilmember Odette Ramos, which is a member of the committee and representative of the 14th District. Did you have a question as well, Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies to be a few minutes late. And I appreciate the planning staff and Office of Sustainability staff sending me the presentation ahead of time. I had a question about if you look at code map, first of all, I want to say that it's great that more areas of the city are being added. I understand why my little flood area is not, because it's not right by the water. I understand that. But you are adding the Herring Run, you're adding more of the Stony Run, and so that's all very good. My question is around when you go into code map, there are these numbers. The numbers, does that mean that that's a high or low likelihood of flooding? And then the red areas, is that sort of the extent of the area where the insurance would be available?
So anyone in Baltimore City is eligible to purchase federally subsidized flood insurance. So because Baltimore City is an NFIP jurisdiction, so we belong to the National Flood Insurance Program, anyone in the city, and that means that if a house is located in the mapped floodplain or outside of the mapped floodplain, everybody is eligible to purchase flood insurance because we are an NFIP jurisdiction. Then if a house is located within the regulatory floodplain, which is like the light and dark purple shades on the screen, then those properties would be eligible for the CRS discount, the 10% or the 25% discount. So that's the only difference. But everybody's eligible to purchase federally subsidized flood insurance.
Okay, so that's all that means. The red stripes and the purple just means that that's where the discounted flood insurance would be available.
So I believe the red, and it's kind of like like a dark pink shade, right? Kind of reddish. Is that what you're saying on the code?
They're lines. They're lines. Yeah.
Okay, so the lines are cross sections. So the numbers on the lines, and if you see here on the screen, the lines are green. If that looks similar to what you were referring to, Councilwoman.
What I'm looking at is code map, and they're red on my screen.
Okay, yeah, we recently changed the color in the cross section. So those cross sections are really the elevation of the flood that FEMA predicts for that specific area. And that's based on sea level. So you would need to look at the natural grade and look at the number within those lines. then the difference between the two would be the elevation that FEMA tells us that if you have a 1% flood, then the flood waters may reach that elevation.
Okay.
But and then the floodplain boundaries themselves, those are the purple shades. It's the lighter purple shade, which is the 0.2%, and the darker purple shade, which is the 1%.
Yeah, that's why I was confused, because I understood that the 1% and 2%, but then there were these red lines that kind of go out. So this really is about what the elevation would possibly be if there is a 1% or 2% flood.
Exactly.
Okay, yes. Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Thanks, Madam Chair. And then if I may ask another?
Sure.
Thank you. The other question that I had was the other point to this particular bill is not just to help us with the maps and adding more floodplain areas, which again, I'm grateful for, but also to revise the sort of building codes around the flood areas so that some things wouldn't need a variance and some would. Is that right? And
yes. So yeah. So there are a lot of the changes are related to variances. Some of the variances were just cumbersome. So we are removing those requirements, and just a lot of the changes are related to clarifying the intent of the code. So right now we have a floodplain memo that was written and signed by the Department of Planning's director back in 2014 or 15 to clarify the intention, the intent of the code. So again, like a lot of the changes that we're making is just adding clarity to the language and not really changing a lot of the requirements.
Except that the variance is then if somebody's building a historic building in an area, they'd still have to get CHAP approval, and they'd have to at least talk to the planning department that they're doing this, right? So you're just saying that they don't have to go to BMZA.
Yes, they wouldn't need to go through a variance, because as it is right now, whenever a historic structure is being renovated, when it's a large renovation, when it triggers substantial improvement, then the floodplain manager works very closely with CHAP staff responsible for that area, and then we find the happy medium. What is sufficient flood protection without damaging the historic character of the structure? So that happens already. What we are doing is removing, so it's not by any means a carte blanche for development within historic structures, so they do need to provide flood protection for the structure. But we are removing the variance requirement because, again, we already work together, including the applicant, so the applicant is like aware of every step. And the variance is just one additional thing that needed to be done. Excuse me. And we are proposing to remove the variance under that case.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you. And I also want to recognize Aaron DeGraffenreid from the Office of the Council President as well. Are there any other questions? You're welcome. Any other questions at this point from the committee? We'll move on with the rest of the agency reports. And we'll start with, at the top, with the City Solicitor's Office. Hillary, are you representing today?
No, it's Madam Chair. This is Vic Turbola from
hi, Victor.
Chief Solicitor with City Law Department. We're going to stand by our report, and we are prepared to approve this bill for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. The Planning Commission.
Madam Chairman, Bruna Attila was speaking for both the Planning Commission and the Office of Sustainability.
Okay.
This is Laurie Feinberg for Planning. Yes.
Thank you, Laurie. And the Planning Department had a favorable report. The Department of Housing and Community Development, Stephanie Murdoch.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Stephanie Murdoch, Legislative Liaison for DHCD. We stand by our report in support of the bill, which would make various changes to the Natural Resources Article, the Zoning Article, and the Building, Fire, and Related Codes. The legislation will allow the city to remain in compliance with the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program and will ensure efficient and flexible building design and construction that will protect the health and safety of our city and encourage the use of the latest studies and data for floodplain management. DHCD supports the passage of this bill. And we thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you for your favorable report. And the Department of Finance.
Good afternoon, Mara James, Legislative Engagement Lead for the Department of Finance. We stand by our report. We do not oppose this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. The Board of Municipal Zoning Administration.
Hi, Madam Chair. Nina Themelis with the Mayor's Office of Government Relations. Representative from BMZ could not attend the hearing this afternoon, but they deferred to the report of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Nina. Okay, committee, before we take public testimony, I have an amendment that I would like to offer, and it's on page, and you do have you were sent a copy of this amendment. On page 62, line 24 of the bill, golf courses have been removed as an allowed use in the floodplain. So other recreational facilities such as athletic fields and parks are being allowed to remain. So the impact of the floodway on all recreational facilities need to be studied. So this amendment will allow golf courses to remain as an allowed use. Remember, we have areas like that belong to the city, like the Forest Park Golf Course and so on. Are there any questions about this, or comments about my amendment? If none, I would.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you speak more elaborately about this amendment and just to clarify the bigger picture around it?
Basically, golf courses have been, the golf courses for some reason has been removed, but other recreational facilities.
In the bill?
Yes.
Are you introducing this on behalf of an agency or?
No. Planning, could someone from the planning department, I want you to explain why if you can, why golf courses were removed.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, if Bruna Attila could speak to that.
Thank you.
So we decided to remove golf courses just because it's not within the floodway, the floodplain, it's within the floodway. Only because the associated facilities that may go around golf courses may not be located within the floodway itself. And by floodway, we mean where the stream actually flows, it's the stream bed. Golf courses are still allowed within the floodplain, which is the 1% and the 0.2% annual chance of flood area. But I will leave that up to you.
And what I'm suggesting that, the impact of all floodways on all recreational facilities need to be studied. And it hasn't been discussed why this really has been removed. So I'm putting in this amendment to allow that specific piece to go back into it. And then down the road, we can have a study and really talk about that more. I understand that we have a timeline of June 16th. So as I said, this was a friendly amendment. Do I have someone does this clarify what you?
I'm sorry, I'd just like to hear just a little bit more about this. I guess it strikes me as concerning just because I have these associations with golf courses and the volume of chemicals that are used in golf courses. And, can somebody help me separate the idea of a floodway from a floodplain and why golf courses are treated differently from any other
that's why
opportunity?
Councilman, that's why I'm putting this amendment, because the golf courses as far as I'm concerned, it is a recreational facility and it should be included with the recreational facilities. So I want the city, I want us to have an opportunity to have all that studied together.
But I guess I'm just trying to understand why the drafters of the bill had
Took it
them
out.
treated differently from
Well,
others.
I agree with you. I'm trying to understand it too. That's why I'm asking for it to be put back in so we can figure out a time to elaborate on recreational facilities.
And I'm asking them to explain why they took it out
Zoning issue.
It's a zoning.
before I vote to put it back in.
Councilman, that's a zoning issue, not a floodplain. That's a zoning thing. That is zoning.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I don't see the amendments.
It was sent.
It was sent. It's a pager that it was sent. I'll get Jennifer to pull it up again.
Was it in the hearing packet?
Yes. That's the amendment right there. It's up on the screen. It's on page 62, line 24 of the bill. As I said, golf courses have been removed as an allowed use in the floodway. Are there any further questions on this amendment? May I move? Do I have a motion to move the amendment?
Motion to move the amendments.
Motion to move by Councilman Glover. Do I have a second?
Second, Conway.
Second by Councilmember Conway. So we're finished with public testimony. I mean, I'm trying to see if we have some public testimony. Thank you. Let's I'm going to go through the amendments. Chair Middleton, yes. Councilman Bullock? Yes. Councilman Conway?
Aye.
Councilman Conway, aye. Councilman Dorsey?
I mean, I can't really vote on this. Nobody spoke to me about this amendment in advance of like 2 minutes ago.
Are you abstaining from this amendment?
I guess I'm explaining my vote. I think that I would have liked to hear a little bit more from the Office of Sustainability. I didn't even hear whether this amendment was discussed in front of the Planning Commission. And I guess I think that there was some logic behind treating golf courses differently than other recreational uses. I know that I have certainly over the years come to regard golf courses as having a different kind of environmental impact on surrounding areas than other places. For instance, I have serious concerns about the golf course's proximity to our drinking water at Loch Raven Reservoir, and the potential for contaminant chemicals which are so prevalently used in golf courses in ways that they are not. And without knowing further, I have to assume that these are the kind of reasons that were considered in why the Office of Sustainability would perhaps treat golf courses and want to treat golf courses. And even if there is some sort of more extensive review that needs to take place, it seems to me like that being more cautious in terms of environmental impact, which is at the core what this legislation is about entirely, that would seem to be prudent to me. And so I'm just going to vote no on this. Thank you.
Councilman Glover. Councilman Dorsey is a no. Councilman Glover
Yes.
is a yes. Councilwoman Ramos?
I have a similar question as the councilman, because I just looked at the amendment and I don't see where it has that these things get to be studied, and maybe I'm just not reading it properly, because this is the first time that I'm seeing it. And I thought I had prepared pretty well for the meeting.
And I repeat myself again, that's exactly why I want all recreational facilities need to be studied. Because something is being removed that hasn't been discussed, or, and golf courses it's a recreational facility. And we have them in the city. We have Forest Park Golf. I'm in the middle of a vote. May I have your vote?
I wish we had, I don't have enough information to vote. I have more questions, but I'm going to vote no.
Ramos, no. Councilman Stokes?
Yes.
Councilman Stokes is a yes. This amendment has been moved favorable. Okay, we're now, yes. Nina, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I'm sorry. Would it be possible to have that amendment shared with the planning department? I don't believe they were able to review it in advance of the hearing, and while it has now been moved favorably, they did want to make sure that it would maintain consistency with all the requirements that they have at the state level.
So what are you asking? You need a copy?
If you could share it with me, I can share it with the planning department.
Okay. It's going to you right now.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Nina, share that with Nina, please. Stimulus. And remember, as I said, it's basically just putting it back in so we can allow for all recreational facilities to be studied. Simple. And that's because there has been no clear clarification with that simple one taken out. I think this is a big packet of information that we have. So this is why this friendly amendment was put, and I thank those that did sign on to this amendment. I'm now checking to see if we have any public testimony. And we'll try one more time. Please use the raise hand function if you wish to testify. When called upon, please state your name. For telephone callers, callers will be muted one by one. When a caller is unmuted, they will hear 2 beeps. If you do not wish to testify, please say so when muted. If you do not wish to testify, please state your, if you do wish to testify, please state your name. And at this time, there are no hands raised. And checking for telephone calls, and we have no telephone calls on this bill. So on that note, do I have a motion to move the bill with the amendment?
Motion to move the bill.
Thank you. Motion to move by Councilman Glover. Do I have a second? Motion to move the bill as amended?
Second, Conway.
Second, Councilman Conway. Chair Middleton, yes. Councilman Bullock?
Yes.
Councilman Conway,
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey,
Yes.
Councilman Glover,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ramos,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes.
Yes.
This bill moves to second reader on May 17th.